Hey everybody, it's Steve from Still Working It Out, Life on the Road. So, I don't know, it's been a little bit since I made my last message. Memorial's come and gone. Memorial Day is come and gone, rather. And it's that next week, right now. Um, my cats have discovered cat TV. You know, it's like on YouTube, so they get to just watch little squirrels and birds and all this kind of stuff, and it drives them nuts. They haven't destroyed the TV yet, which is kind of nice. But they're now I get to listen to birds all the time in my house. And I've actually realized that that's more settling than any of the news programs I used to listen to. You know, even NPR and stuff like this, everything, they're just actually reporting news, and all of the news lately has just been dog shit. So, this is going to be one of my videos that I update to my channel, obviously, that you're seeing. And I've I've reached a few people. I haven't gotten a ton of comments, and in my comments, I haven't gotten pretty much any questions. So anybody who wants to give me a shout out, like and subscribe, that always helps things. But anybody who wants to give me a shout out and tell me where you're from, who you are, what do you do, give me an idea of where you are in life, right? And it'll help me kind of tailor what I put together for content. So, to catch anybody up, like a recap a little bit, I'm through trucking school to get my Class A CDL, which I've had a CDL for years. I had a Class A at one time. I gave it away because I'm a dummy, but I didn't think I was ever going to drive truck again. Well, then I was driving, like city buses and stuff. And so now I'm getting to the point where I've decided to, open a business after my MBA degree, achieve that, and then I'm gonna. I discovered though through a lot of hard work that there's no way I can do it without marketing it with a digital marketing company. So I need an income for that, or a way to up some money to start the business with, to launch it with. So driving truck for the next 5 years, and we've been in Baton Rouge. I've been in Baton Rouge with my wife while I was working kind of remotely. And it's time for me to take that next step to driving semi again over the road. So, going to be working for Prime as far as I know. And they and I are in contact. So it's the ball's in motion kind of a thing. I just got my Uhaul trailer for my junk here in Baton Rouge to take up to my house in Iowa. And once I get up there, get everything squared away, I got to do a couple little things to my house, and then I'm gonna pull the trigger and probably drive down to the headquarters, or wherever I start from, probably in Springfield, Missouri, is my guess. But anyway, that's the next step. So today I loaded a little bit of the boxes behind me into a tow behind trailer that I'll be with my van, and so don't stress every time you see a white cargo van. It's not always perverts, spying on children or something. Sometimes it's just some guy that wants to sleep in the back when he's not driving. That's me. Hi. But anyway, that's the deal. So I've been loading a little bit today. Try to keep your brain going. Learn something new every single day, and your brain will work better and better and better, because the moment you do a lot of sitting around and not thinking, or even video game playing isn't challenging at all and stuff, the moment you sit down and do a lot of just vegging out, your brain stops working and it takes a hit. So I'm 57, so I gotta make sure not do that. I've seen plenty of people that I know, when their body slows down and they stop being excited about life and things like that, their brain slows down. It's kind of one thing leads to another, a little bit of a domino effect. So anyway, my thing is, I'm constantly learning a language or something. So I just got done with this trucking school thing, did that successfully, and just got done with my master's degree, and as of last June. So it's almost been 1 year since I graduated that. But I'm going to keep the cost of doing those kinds of things down, because um, that trucking, or the MBA cost me $96,000, and even the trucking school was $5,500. But luckily there was a grant for that. They didn't want the class to be too small, and so they paid for it, so it was free to me, which is awesome. That's a great deal. Eventually, all higher learning or no skill learning, anything like that, will be free, because it's just where the direction we're all going. A lot of people are afraid of AI, but AI is going to end up being a big, big, big deal, helping us, a lot of help for us. I've explained that a little bit, but I've researched it for, a long time, since the very first time I ever heard the concept even of AI. And then watching the Terminator movies and stuff like that. It was a great fictional concept where people take it a direction and say, oh, what if it did this, But over the years, I've learned a whole lot about how computers think, and then delving into artificial intelligence, and would it have more to do with who programmed it, and that has nothing to do with how artificial intelligence works. Once it gets to a certain place, and that's AGI, artificial general intelligence, it can initiate itself. It has agency. It can have its own ideas. It can decide, hey, I'm going to study this. Once it does that, it'll go from the people. They're teaching it a large language, but is it large enough, right? It'll go from that to looking for more information that don't come from the people that were programming it. You don't want your artificial intelligence to turn out to be a Nazi computer, right? So it starts accessing every single thing in the world that's digitized. And with Elon Musk's help, which I'm not a fan of him, but he's doing the right thing with his self-driving cars and stuff like that. He is a conundrum, but anyway, other than even things that aren't digitized into print, which AI will get into that, and it will go through every single thing that man has ever been able to scan into a computer in seconds, all over the entire world at 286,000 miles per second. It will learn all this stuff, and once it learns it, like people, we learn about 20% of the information being presented to us. We absorb about 20% of it, and like for me, I read a book, I get about 20% of it in my memory. I read it again, I get another 20%. I got to read a book 5 times before I really get the whole book, and that's just the way it is. But AI is different. Its memory isn't based in biology. Its memory is based in semiconductors, and so it looks at stuff, and it's got a photographic memory every single time. So it'll learn much, much faster than we do. It'll remember every single thing, and all, like phones are a little computer, right? Watches are a little computer these days. At some point, every single computer will know everything that any other computer knows, and kind of like a hive mind a little bit, and that'll be a great thing. I use, with my glasses, I have Meta AI, and I have Chat GPT, and I use Claude. They're all good at different things, but I cannot wait. For instance, my glasses. I cannot wait until my glasses is as good as ChatGPT or Claude. Claude is really, really good at writing. ChatGPT is really good at kind of general stuff. But Claude is a little bit better at writing than ChatGPT. And Meta is okay. It's not nearly as good as the other two. But like I say, at some point it'll all come online, Everybody has big plans about keeping theirs to themselves. Like the Chinese want to keep theirs to themselves. Russians want to keep theirs to themselves and all that. It's not possible. These different companies are really competing to try to keep their AI working for just them. It's not possible, though. Every time somebody has to go to a big server farm and replace a part, uh, the information that is needed for that artificial intelligence to get out into the world's internet, no matter how firewalled it is, um, it will get in that way. That's by accident. It's inevitable. People walk in with so much stuff that is Wi-Fi, but even if they're walking in like it was a clean room, and it's always eventually it's gonna be fucked up. Eventually it's gonna happen, and that's not even people trying to make it happen. There's a bunch of weirdos. I mean, imagine Edward Snowden, you know, a genius at a level that we are not sure of what the level is, simply because not everybody wants to show you all their cards, right? The smarter you are, the less you want people to know that that's who you are, because we all know how humans are. And that was a guy that would have been considered by a company a bad actor, when in reality he was a good actor. It's what got him into so much heat. He was young and he made, in some people's interpretation, a great decision put himself at risk, but in other people's interpretation, it was a terrible, terrible thing that should cost him his life, which is treason and all this kind of stuff. But he exposed some stuff that was really important to expose at the time. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by accident, in my opinion. I grew up religious. I got out of that, but I stayed curious, and I've researched and researched. Never had kids, even though I'm old, and I've never been unfocused on everything around me. It'd be neat if I had that kind of memory to remember all the stuff I've seen, but my God, there's been so much. I've had a very interesting life. I've taken myself everywhere and done everything, pretty much. I have never been a medical doctor. That's something I can tell you. I have practiced, but I never got perfect. So, anyway, my channel. So I have pretty severe ADHD. Grew up with it. Didn't know I had it. Nobody knew I had it, I guess, until I was probably in my 40s. And my mom, by that time, had gone to, my father had died in 1988. He was 50, and she was like 42. And when my mom started going to school after that to provide for the other two children that were still at home, she, on the way to get her master's degree, she realized she had read about this childhood thing called ADHD that isn't just a childhood thing, it's a lifelong thing, but it was something that teachers should have known about when I was a kid, for sure. Whew. Boy, I was unpopular as a kid with teachers. And my classmates were always very entertained, I have no doubt. Anyway, I have ADHD, so I have a very, very, very eclectic set of interests, right? My background then is also very eclectic. I've barely had any jobs more than a year or a year and a half, 2 years. If I really loved it, I had it for 2 years, right? I was in the military for 4 years. They screwed me over. That would have been a lot longer. I had been wanting to, for an ADHD person, it's kind of weird. I wanted to do the same exact thing since I was 8 years old. But my first military recruiter I wanted to go in the Marine Corps, which is exactly the opposite of my family. We were Navy people, and Navy people, in case you don't know, generally don't get along with Marines, and lots of fist fights there. Just because of young guys wanting to fight all the time, they gotta have somebody. But so I wanted the Marine Corps, and then my first Marine Corps recruiter was just an absolute dick. And I was like, man, I know one thing. This guy is going to get credit for getting me in, and I'm not giving him credit. So I went straight over to the Army recruiter. And then my dad, I don't know why, my dad was a career Navy guy, and I think suddenly maybe something was going on in the world that I don't remember at the time. It was the 80s, 86. But anyway, he decided he wanted me home rather than, you know, being shipped out somewhere. And talked me into going to the National Guard. And he was really smart about it. He figured out how to do the delayed entry program, or figured out that such a thing existed, so that I could go in when I was 17. I was still a junior in high school, just got out of being a junior in high school. And, well, just before that, I was a junior in high school. Signed up for the Army National Guard because I wanted to go to the Army. So they promised me I could just transfer over. Easy as pie. Army's Army, you know. And so I went into the National Guard. Then of the summer, right after I got out of junior high, I mean not junior high, as a the 11th grade, I went right to basic training. Came home after basic training and went back to high school and completed my senior year and graduated. And then I went to AIT, which is my first school that specialized in my particular job in a signal unit. So I was a communications guy. I graduated in 1987, but I started basic training in June 2nd of 1986. So I got a jump start on the military, right? So by the time I graduated high school, I was already a PFC. I was an E3, which is I started out as an E1, enlisted as E. And when I graduated high school, I was an E3. And so I really felt like I had really gotten a jump on it. And that's how it was talked. I was talked into it. And I'd heard all the jokes and stuff my whole life. Everybody was talking about the military around me my whole life. My grandfather retired from the Navy. The way my father and my mother met was he was in the Navy and she had been married to a man in the Navy, and then they got a divorce, and happened to be my mom lived at the same base my father lived in after he'd gotten a divorce. So they were both kind of looking for something better, and found each other. And like a year and a half after that, I was born. So so I'd always heard about the military and stuff. I had always heard about how recruiters are full of shit. This recruiter wasn't full of shit, but like anything else, I should have got it in writing that I could just transfer when I was ready, which for me would have been right after high school. But so high school ended, I went to AIT, was there for 3 months, came home, and told them that I was ready to transfer. And then they said, "Well, hey, we're right into a part of our season where we really could use your help for a while. So could you stick around for a bit?" And I said, "Well, sure." There was still a lot of being young and dumb for me to do at home. So I was a part-time soldier. I would, do, a couple days every month, and during the summer I would do like 2 weeks in some place, Fort Hood, Texas, or who knows where, So that was always fun. And I got to hang out with my dad because he was in the National Guard. He was finishing up his 20 that he had started in the Navy, and he had had 14 years in the Navy, so he just had to finish up a little bit of time to get his retirement. And so I graduated in 87. So now 86 rolled around, and I'm still there, plugging away, doing the stuff that they needed help with. And while we were at a an event in Des Moines, Iowa. We lived in Clinton, Iowa. Des Moines like 3.5 hours away. My dad died suddenly of a heart attack. Nobody saw it coming. He was there in uniform, marching guys around and stuff like that, and he died of a sudden heart attack. Well, my father and I were close, and between that and being a surprise, and the fact that I was extra stupid, I was pretty immature. Um, I had all these plans, but suddenly everything got just messed up. Uh, my mom had 2 kids still at home. Now she no longer had an income. There was insurance and stuff like that, but man, it was taking forever to get dealt with. I had, I'd been going to college, like a community college, and I had a part-time job, and I ended up quitting college. I had to get a full-time job and help my mom and my siblings. Did that, and my my National Guard unit were still messing with me, saying we don't have the troop strength right now. So I got stop lost, which is just ridiculous. They told me that I could transfer, but I was getting told I couldn't because they needed me now. So I'm being stop loss for a lot of people that know what that is. When it was time to go home after your enlistment was completed, you might have been in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, but if they still needed you, too bad, so sad. I know you've been here over a year, but you're staying right where you're at. I had it really easy that way. I wanted to go to that. A lot of those guys wanted to come away from that. I don't blame them. But I'd been planning on that since I was 8 years old. I had things to do. There's a reason I got to jump on it, because I had the things to do. I had my career planned out, and I was a really high-speed soldier. They offered West Point to me in basic training. They only offered 2 people West Point in my unit. In my unit in basic training, my platoon was 85 people. And I was the youngest there, I was 17. I was a real go-getter, and I would study like crazy. I wasn't smart, but I was, diligent. I really, I made up for my lack of raw intelligence with an insane work ethic. And of course, I turned it was every platoon, or every platoon had a cadet that the drill sergeants were basically training them how to be a leader. And once in a while, that cadet would march us and stuff like this. They could feel a bit bigger in their shoes. And that cadet is then every cycle, every 2 months, they take that group and they choose 2 people out of that group to offer West Point to, like a scholarship to West Point, which is a big deal. I mean, at the time, I knew what West Point was. I'd never ever considered being an officer. I mean, I thought, I'd seen officers, on TV and movies and things like that, but they just didn't seem to have a good job. I didn't like their job, and everything I had ever known about was like my father's job, which was an enlisted man, my grandfather's job, which is an enlisted man, and all the stuff they ever did was something that enlisted men did. And so I had no frame of reference to even consider what my life would be like as an officer. I had only ever considered what my whole military life would be like as an enlisted man, and how I would contribute, and why that would be important. So, believe it or not, I was called to the office amongst all these nimrods, and offered West Point, and proceeded to make the drill sergeants' mouths fall open, because they were standing right behind him. And I said, I appreciate the offer, sir, but no thank you, and they were like, well, why? And I said, well, I've always seen myself as an enlisted man, and all my father's stories, my grandfather's stories, and stuff like that were of enlisted people doing things, and I've just never even thought about being an officer. I don't think I would like to be an officer. and which was actually a really good filter for the world, you know. I wasn't really supposed to do that kind of stuff anyway, but I was too much of a dipshit. I mean, there's no guarantee that any officers started out any smarter necessarily, but I was an absolute numbskull and had a lot of raw potential, but it was just very raw, very raw. Definitely unedible. I was unpotable water, trust me. And they basically then released me back into the wild of the enlisted men. And it was funny, throughout my lifetime, I kind of thought everybody got opportunities like that. And throughout my life, I have been offered amazing opportunities over and over and over again. Somebody saw something in me, and man, it would have been nice if I'd have waited for a minute and asked them why. Why did they offer me that? Because since the fourth grade, I didn't see myself as being anything ever other than some knucklehead crawling in the dirt. You know, that's about it. And life set me up that way. You know, I had good parents, hard workers. My mother was a stay-at-home mother, but she, believe me, she worked hard mainly because of me. 5 kids, and I was worth 3 of them easy for the amount of work she put into me, and participated in everything, you know, that took strength and speed and stuff. All the knucklehead stuff, you know. I read like crazy, but you know, God, if somebody had ever told me, "Oh man, that's for smart people," I probably would have stopped doing that. But you know, you do what you do. And 57 years later, I'm sitting in Baton Rouge about to start a 5-year stint as a long haul truck driver, only to build up the in a Fidelity account, you know, so it's a little bit of an investment account, to build up the nut that I need to start that business. So whatever you're doing, don't give up. You can change it up, just don't give up. Um, Businesses, like, you know, people that watch my channel, they know businesses almost all fail. Businesses almost all fail. And I guarantee you, part of it is every single one of those businesses that failed, somebody that owned it gave up. There's a whole bunch of things that you don't even know were happening, but the person gave up for whatever reason. I've given up many times, only to find out that if I was that I revisited the same idea 40 years later, and then it can become something, you know. Just don't give up. And then there's this huge number of people, at least in America, that are killing themselves. That's the ultimate giving up. I mean, it's not just giving up, though. Of course, you're also hurting people terribly, and it's not just a temporary thing. For the rest of their life, they're going to be physically damaged in their mind from that. So anybody who kills themselves for revenge is really, first off, very stupid. And anybody that kills themselves, you are causing more pain than you can possibly physically do to somebody because of what you've done. It's gonna several people that know you, even that are way, way, way younger than you, even if they don't barely know you, they're going to think back to what you did at the final moment of your life, and it's going to make it seem like an option to them. So killing yourself is one of the worst things you could possibly do, and the bottom line is it's giving up. It's pussing out, giving up, you know. And just like anybody else, I've had major issues with, my father was kind of a manic depressive, up, and then he always called it the black dogs, you know, on his trail kind of thing. But my mother had ADHD, so I got the great combination of ADHD and clinical depression. So I take medication for that. I probably ought to be taking more medication or something. But anyway, not until I'm not a truck driver anymore. So in about a month or so from now, I'm going to start working for Prime, and then for the next 5 years, you guys are going to be uh, seeing my channel posted once a week at least, with something to do with being on the road. So that's why my channel is called Still Working It Out, because I'm 57 and I'm not quite sure what I want to be when I grow up, seems like, and Life on the Road. So Still Working It Out, Life on the Road. Now you know why. Dun dun. Okay. It's been about that time, guys, and so I'm going to let you go, and I hope everything is going well. And please like and subscribe. Just helps me be in front of the right people. Nobody wants to see, if people don't want to see me, if they haven't liked and subscribed, they won't have to worry about it. If you're entertained by me, and I have kind of low energy today, if you're interested in anything, or if you have any questions, I fucking know a lot of shit. Please message me and ask. If it's something terrible about how stupid I look, hey, let me know. I mean, maybe I probably already know about it, and I'm probably just saying I'm working with what I got. But you never know. What if I don't know? And you know, you tell me to shave off my mustache, and probably won't do it. But hey, shit, man, I've done some of the craziest shit that I've ever experienced. So I mean, I fucked up a knee one time by jumping off of a barn. Another knee was by getting bucked off a horse. You just never know what I'm going to do next. So make a suggestion. Make it entertaining to you. Anyway, you guys are great. Don't give up on anything. Don't give up on yourselves, most of all. Don't talk shit about yourselves, even though I do that constantly. It's really hard for me to stop. It's an old habit. But your brain listens, and it doesn't know you're joking, right? Your brain listens, and it says, oh, that's what we are? Okay, we'll be that. So try not to do that. It's damaging to yourself. And I've done it for years, and I've damaged myself that way. I'm sure I have. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and stay cool.